up, guys? We are launching another episode of Tampa Bay Real Producers. Of course, this is the podcast for real producers, by real producers, and with none other than real producers. And we have Brandon Rhymes in the house today. What up, Big B?
How we doing? Awesome.
Dude, I am so excited to have you here. Brandon and I think I've known you for what? 15 years?
Yeah, quite a while.
Something to that effect. I mean, I know it goes back even to before Real Producers. I know that.
Yep.
Brandon really has done an amazing job in this market and building his brand, which we're going to dive into here. The consumer quarterback is in the house today. So excited to have you on board. And Brandon has been featured, of course, in Tampa Bay Real Producers as well. I don't remember exactly what feature it even was, but I think you've been in more than one over the years. And he's also been a panelist on our Pop series. He's been featured to talk about building teams, has been one of the topics that he's been on before. So, yeah, man, we typically get started with just a little bit more about your background. So for people who don't know you, kind of don't know where you're from and how it all shook out, how you got into Tampa Bay. So let's start there. Did you grow up around here, and how eventually did you find yourself into real estate?
Yeah, so I'm one of the rare what they call like Florida crackers, right?
That's right.
For South Florida. So I grew up in a small town called LaBelle, just east of Fort Myers down there, and it was a great childhood, man. Just in the woods, hunting, fishing, riding three-wheelers and go-karts and all that stuff, and
killing gators.
Just a fun childhood. Yeah, just pretty much anything we found, right? Doing some hunting and fishing. But yeah, and then a lot of people want to know, like, how did I come up with the real estate brand of the real estate quarterback?
Yeah.
So I was always a quarterback on my sports teams, and Dad was the coach. So you know how that dynamic plays out.
No doubt.
He's tough on the kid, right? But that made us tough. It made us win, and we went undefeated. I played in Pop Warner Super Bowl #1 when I was 10 years old.
Nice.
1987, we got beat by the Atlanta Colts, but hey, they have a lot more kids to choose from than a small town in South Florida.
There you go.
But yeah, so the real estate quarterback, and then I kind of carried that brand through. I played football at USF. Actually, in high school, we had an undefeated team as well. I was the quarterback. We went to state, lost state championship game to a team that recruits, but that's a whole nother kind of a money trail.
And I'm not bitter at all. You can tell.
No, not bitter. No. But a lot of teams do recruit, and to me, that's such a disadvantage for some of these schools and kids, and that don't have the boosters and backing, et cetera. But anyhow, so that's bringing us up to kind of USF days, and I turned down a full ride to play quarterback for the Naval Academy too.
Really?
Because I was an option style quarterback. So yeah, little undersized for the typical drop back type Peyton Manning type guy.
You didn't want to go to Annapolis, huh?
I turned it down. There was multiple reasons, and it was super cold. And that January they took me up there,
right?
So it was like freezing cold in '96 when I went up.
Florida boy ain't comfortable with that. Huh?
No, man, that was cold, and then just the whole, like rounding off your corners in the dormitories and things like that. I mean, it was a cool experience though. They took us out to eat, at the Chart House, just beautiful high-end restaurants, and then went to the stadium, and there was snow all over the stadium, and it said Brandon Rhymes, number 12, quarterback on the big, at the stadium. And so it was a pretty cool, fun experience. But yeah, and I had a girlfriend back home and all that stuff. And then of course USF had offered, kind of a partial type scholarship opportunity.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Yeah. It's funny. Plus, I mean, if you go to Annapolis, that's a whole other thing too. It's just dealing with the school system itself and having to go through all that boot camp and training. And I don't know if you ever had a desire to go into the military in that way, but that would have been a different experience.
Right. No, yeah, it wasn't that military type family or upbringing,
Right.
I love our veterans. I love our military, thank God for them. But no, it was, I was more along the line said, I want my freedom. I don't want to have lockdowns.
Yep. No doubt.
Your plebe year that you go through and all that. But
I have a cousin that went through West Point, so he was telling me the stories of his hell week and everything that he had to go through and he actually didn't even graduate there. They had some eye issue that they found when he was a junior, so he was there first 3 years and became a doctor. So he's done well for himself since then. But yeah, man, they go through some stuff for sure,
big time.
Yeah, no doubt.
It's a lot, but
so you don't regret it, huh?
Well, I would watch the football games and I would see, I don't know if you remember back then, they actually had pretty good teams back then.
Yeah.
They had All-American, like Clint Bruce was a linebacker. Ben Fay was a quarterback, but also Chris McCoy was a quarterback, and they were like All-American. So they showed me around and I was like a little bit, not starstruck, but I was like, man, these guys are the real deal. You know? But
David Robinson went there for basketball.
Yeah. Roger Staubach, I think.
Roger Staubach. Yeah.
But yeah, so it would have been fun, man. It would have been really cool to play on national national TV. And
yeah, Army Navy
they
game
recruited me hard too, man. They wanted me. I mean, it was pretty cool to be, you know, kind of wanted like that as a young athlete, because you know, I didn't get the other Division I offers, you know, from big schools, you know, Georgia Tech or Florida Gators or whatever.
Right. But so it was just Navy and USF that was coming at you.
Pretty much. I mean, I had other schools, smaller schools. I had a couple letters from Clemson, and you know, I can't remember now. It's been so long since I thought about that.
Clemson now is like a powerhouse.
Yeah,
they weren't back then though.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But we're, you know, coming from a small school, you're disadvantaged. You
Yeah.
know, you're not playing. And, you know, we were 3A back then. I know they redone all those different classifications. But you know, I'm from kind of like what they call the muck, you know, down there, Belglade, South Bay. I played against NFL players growing up, like NFL, you know, I call them a legend, like Edgerrin James, Anquan Bolden, Travis Henry. Up here in Tampa, there was Kenny Kelly, Daryl Jackson, Quincy Hibbs. Like, we beat all those teams, you know. So that was pretty unique to have 24 seniors on a team that it was my same group that played in the Pop Warner Super Bowl. Yeah. You know, so it kind of plays into that, you know, bringing that into your real estate business, bringing it into your business. You know, when you have that cohesiveness between a team, and, you know, we were playing baseball together, basketball against each other. It's like iron sharpening iron.
Brotherhood.
Yeah. Even if we were on the same teams, we were going against each other. And it was very competitive.
Makes sense.
You know,
absolutely. So you went to USF. That's where you made the choice. You played quarterback there.
Yep.
It was all 4 years you were quarterback there?
Well, I was recruited at USF as a DB. So
you were?
Yeah, that's kind of one of the misconceptions that kind of goes out there. And, you know, sometimes I don't correct people just because it's like, you know, like what's
it fits the brand now.
Yeah, it fits the brand. But what's the rule? Like, what's that highly influenced
statute of limitations is like, I'll go down with the ship. I quarterback.
I remember that book too. That book that from Carnegie. It was How to Win Friends and Influence People. You don't really correct people.
True.
Because if you tell them, oh no, you know. But anyway, so something like that, it's not quite. But yeah, so I was always a quarterback, and then people kind of put, oh, you played at USF, you must have been the quarterback. No, they switched me to DB. Which I didn't like as much, but you know, it was fun. I mean, still being part of that back in the mobile homes, you know, back in the day, we had mobile homes. Now they got this multi-million-dollar complex.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
You know, so that was fun. And Jim Levitt was a good coach. I really liked him. Bob Stoops was my coach.
Did you guys play at the old stadium? The old Buck Stadium?
The sombrero.
You did, right? The old sombrero, the big sombrero?
That's right.
Yeah.
Now, I was only there for a year and a half, so I transferred out. I kind of had a run-in with a coach a little bit. He was, you know, kind of bunny trail to go down there. But so I ended up transferring out. I played at Ferrum College. I did go back to quarterback. I played at Ferrum College in Virginia. D3 school, but it was fun because, you know, it was almost felt like high school again.
Yeah,
I was a quarterback on the team. I won team MVP.
Big man on campus.
We went undefeated. Yeah, like we went undefeated again.
Yeah,
you know, and
cool.
We actually lost the last 2 or 3 games because I blew my ankle, blew out, you know, my ankle or what, it rolled it pretty bad.
Is that the end of your football career?
It was.
Yeah.
At that point, I was like, I'm done.
We all got some injury story that we can tell. Right?
Exactly. you know, it's like you got student loan debt, all these different things. I'm like, all right, let me just focus on the thing I'm proud of though, Don, is that I transferred from there back to Florida Gulf Coast University. I still graduated on time. You know, a lot of people that transfer around, move around, you get behind and you lose credits. I transferred on time. I would take 15 classes or whatever it was, hours. And so I'm still proud of that. I graduated in 2000.
Nice, man. And then so did you get into real estate right away, or what was that journey like?
No, yeah. So, you know, from there, it's kind of a good learning experience. One of my good buddies, he had a sister that worked at the Ritz-Carlton.
Okay.
So I got on at the 5-star, 5-diamond hotel, nice. Ritz-Carlton. Now we were both personal trainers at the fitness spa. It was an awesome experience. It was a 52,000 square foot spa, brand new at the time.
Nice.
I mean, when you walk into the spa, you look up, you see like the galaxy and the stars.
Yeah. Hot,
cold plunges, hot tub. Like, I mean, it was a really awesome.
And the Ritz-Carlton must have had an interesting clientele as well at times.
Big time. Like Uma Thurman, Ethan Hawke, Judge Judy, a couple of football players would come through. So yeah, it was neat to see those people.
Now, which Ritz was this?
Sorry,
which one was this?
This was the Naples Beach Hotel.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So I lived in Naples for a while, but when 9/11 happened, the hospitality industry shut down.
Mm-hmm.
Before I moved to that, Ritz-Carlton really taught me a lot. A business takeaway from that was, first level, first class service. Everything I do is my pleasure to serve.
Yeah. There's actually a book written about their systems and programs.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just to get hired on there, you have to pass all these different, QSPs and things like that. But that was my number one takeaway, and I bring that to my business today. Is, if a client asks for something, I had a client ask me one time for yard sale signs. I'm like, okay, sure. I called my printer. I'm like, hey, instead of open house, just put yard sale and let's ship them to his house.
Yeah.
This first time I had been asked that, but yeah, it makes sense.
Of course.
Yeah. Put them out there as advertising.
Whatever the client needs, fulfill it, right?
That's right.
If you can.
That's right. It's a win-win. So
then so that was in Naples. And then how did you transition into this whole real estate thing?
Yeah. So 9/11 hit, hospitality shut down. I called a bunch of my friends up in Tampa. Some of my old roommates, were guys that were just crushing it in the mortgage industry, $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 a month. I was like, wow, that's impressive. Let me learn that. Let me get involved. Come on up. So I came up and ended up getting on with a company called Residential Finance Corporation. I was a loan officer. I learned a lot through that, about debt ratios and qualifying for mortgages. I was then recruited by H&R Block Mortgage. I took a large sign-on bonus and signed on to move over to H&R Block Mortgage. And then from there, I jumped into the wholesale side and I got on with Argent Mortgage as an account executive. Okay. So it was interesting to work for the banks. And that was a whole nother interesting company to work for. It was the wholesale side of AmeriQuest.
Okay.
So a lot of people don't recognize Argent because that was like the wholesale, broker to broker stuff.
Yep.
But what was really cool was like some of these quarterly sales trips, man. We had these awesome quarterly sales trips, and it kind of leans to like where we were going back in that 05, 06, 07.
Right. Things were booming. It was a crazy, crazy time. I can imagine in the lending industry.
Yeah. The amount of money that was thrown. Like we sponsored, like back then it was like Danica Patrick.
They were giving loans to anybody that can breathe at that time.
Yeah. And I was on the subprime side.
Yeah.
We were doing a lot of those subprime type loans. We didn't get quite as crazy as some of the other ones, though.
Right.
We still had, some kind of
you had some standards,
stated income. Yeah. I mean, you could state your income to a certain, and then they'd check the, the standards for that industry.
Right.
We didn't get quite as elaborate as others did with these pick-up payment loans, negative amortization loans, things like that.
There was some interesting things happening in those days.
Let me tell you, this is a pretty cool story or fun story because one of the first trips I went on was to Los Angeles. And it was the first quarterly sales trips, and all my friends that were with the company were like, just wait, you're going to be impressed, man. So, I mean, it was so cool. Like we had Tony Robbins as a speaker. They bussed us. There were like 400 account reps, I think it was at the time, for this company called Argent Mortgage. So we went out to LA. We loaded up on the bus, and we went over to one of the big, the Coliseum or whatever it was, like a Staples Center or something along those lines. It was a really big spot, but the
Raiders used to play.
Coliseum. I think, well, yeah, actually, that's not it then. It was indoor arena.
Okay.
Something, maybe the basketball, but
Forum.
Yeah. Yeah. So we went, and when we were walking off the bus, they actually went to the extent to pay extras. They had like these audience members.
Nice.
Cheering for us. Oh, so-and-so's the best. They had these lights going off.
It was probably the Laker girls.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was elaborate, man. I mean, again, the amount of money that was flowing back then. Hors d'oeuvres, wine being carried around. We go in. We had Jay Leno as entertainment that night. Black Eyed Peas came out that was back when they were kind of coming up and hot. And then like Tony Robbins was a speaker, and all type like Magic Johnson, all these different players.
This was just your company, right?
Yeah, it was about a company party. Yeah, for
not bad.
400 to 500 account executives across the country. And I just remember the guys in Miami and some of the big markets, they were making literally $1 million a month.
It's crazy.
Just pushing pre-approvals to
to all their buddies and whoever else.
They would go around. That was the job. You would go around and be friends with people and get them to, a sales job.
Right.
Maybe go golfing here and there and give them tickets to the Indianapolis or not the IndyCar races, the St. Pete races and things like that. That was an interesting.
Did that bust when everybody else had busted? Is that how it all went down?
Yeah. We were, we kind of, that company kind of held on, and then, you saw all these different companies start going out of business. And then even the big insurer went out, AIG.
Yep.
Remember that? And then from there, I jumped on with a company called Equifirst, which had, a lot more common sense underwriting for subprime, non-QM, they call it, whatever you want to call it there. But yeah, I was with them for a little while, and
I didn't realize that you had such a background on the finance side.
Yeah,
which obviously has helped you, I would imagine, in the real estate side, which you started transitioning to that, which we'll obviously dive into here. But I have to imagine the things that you saw from there, did that make that real estate transition that much easier?
Absolutely. And you always look for like, hey, how do I move up the ladder, right? How do I get to that higher pecking order? Because, one of the strategies was, as a mortgage loan officer, you call on realtors, try to see if you can get a realtor to send you deals and purchase business.
Yep.
And, the purchase business, you got some refinance business. So yeah, I just remember that. And then, my dad was always like, hey, you need to be a broker. You need to go get your own licenses, because I was kind of working as a loan officer at that time. And it's good advice, right? Good advice. And that's when I got into real estate pretty much essentially after that. I did have a company for a while.
So you didn't want to build a team of LOs. You saw it as more of an opportunity to get into the real estate side. Was that because of the uncertainty and what was happening in the markets at that time on the loan side, or was there something else about real estate, like being the agent side specifically, that attracted you?
Right. Yeah. I think it was more on the agent side, and I think it was market conditions too, because what I did is I jumped into the foreclosure business for a while. So kind of next chapter.
Which is, I think, where we met, if I remember correctly, because when I was involved with here, I had an interest in the foreclosure side. I graduated from UT, and one of the things that I did for a little while was get into like some house flipping and get in and trying to find distressed properties.
Right.
And I somehow I feel like we hooked up at a party somewhere where we first met for the first time with another buddy of mine, Ryan Carlson. I don't know if that name rings a bell to you.
Yep.
But I think he might have even introduced us. He is. He's a good dude. I actually was just hanging out with him this week.
No way.
Yeah. So, but that's where we met initially, I think, was through that foreclosure work that you were doing.
Yeah, exactly. And so I got into that business, and it was one of these things where you go out and you clean them up, you clean them out. We even did evictions, and it was a business that I grew up doing, going back to my childhood. Ever since I was probably, I don't know, 9, 10, 11 years old, if I wasn't playing sports, football, basketball, wrestling, whatever it was, Dad would always say, well, you're coming to work with me.
Yep.
So we would find a sport. We'd find a sport to do.
Right.
But even
find a way to stay busy.
Yeah. But even then, the summers, you're going out, you're doing like 16 grass cuts a day. I mean, he taught us work ethic, man.
No doubt.
Yeah. I mean, it was work.
That's paid off, huh?
That's hard work. Cleaning out homes. I mean, literally bagging them, all the trash that people leave behind.
For sure.
And, if you've
especially
ever walked
these
into
foreclosures, because they don't care.
Exactly, dude.
Yeah.
So that's what happened, man. We did. So going back to that preservation business, I kind of knew that business.
Yeah.
And I knew that the economy was going that way.
Yeah.
So then, like that book, Who Moved My Cheese, or where did it go? So that, I did that for a little while.
Where did that damn cheese go anyway?
Yeah. Where did it go? Let me chase it.
So what year did you get licensed?
I believe it was 09. I think it was 09.
Okay. And was that with KW at the time?
No, that's a mistake I made. Is I actually, I was one of these guys. Oh, I don't need, I can do 100%. I'm going to keep 100% of my commission,
right,
that whole thing. And then, so I floundered around in a little while and just, I did that. And it was just so hard. Even just the minor things of like, hey, I always knew when I interviewed, everybody said you list to last. You go out and get listings. You're going to make it in this business. So that's what I did. And I got really good at it. Today I teach classes called Win with Sellers throughout the state of Florida for Keller Williams. I go to Fort Lauderdale or different markets, and it's part of our growth strategy for my wife, Lindsay, and our team. And it's so the listing side of the business, you quickly learn is like, hey, that's where you want to be.
Sure.
Right. But the challenge with me was I didn't have the systems, the trainings, the education, the models, the technology, the support that Keller Williams can afford you.
Yep.
Because at our office, we're one of the largest offices in Tampa Bay, in Clearwater, Palm Harbor, with the Ubaldini Group. There's classes every day, all day. So if you got newer agents, hey, go to this class, go to that class, and you coach them. But yeah, so that was kind of my downfall in a sense.
When did you hook up with KW? What year was that?
I think it was right at 4 or 5 years ago now.
Now, you already had the radio show then, obviously?
Yeah.
So
that was one of the
when you started the radio show, which was a decade ago, you said, right?
Yep. 10 years. We're celebrating 10 years in August.
Congrats. That's
Thank you.
I mean, I don't know a ton about the stats on that, but I would imagine a lot of people that get into that space don't last 10 years.
Oh man. Yeah. Cause it just really resonated with me. To get into radio, I wanted to be in a position where I could grow my sphere of influence, and rather than, one-to-one or, meeting people at networking groups, I wanted to be one-to-many. I wanted to leverage. And then of course, social media came around about that time. So then you utilize that into your social, of course, your Facebooks, your different technologies.
It's interesting to me, like not many agents do that. Right. I mean, you really were, at least for this market locally in Tampa Bay, obviously there are agents across the country that have radio shows and so forth. But you were one of the first that, as I got more and more into real estate and started really as from an investment side of real estate, and then now having real producers and have the network that I have. But you were one of the first that I remember really going after this radio spots, right? And building that brand and being, you know, obviously that creates a certain image, right? When you do that well. So I'm curious more like what was the motivation? You touched on it maybe a little bit already. But what are some of the challenges possibly that you even had to face when you first got it going? And I'm sure you had to learn a lot, you know, really quickly how to make that all work. And so talk a little bit about that, how that radio thing got started.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm a big Tony Robbins guy. You know, I love Tony Robbins' teachings. I think he's changed many millions of people's lives. At this
I'm one of them.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Walking on Fire. I did the Walk on Fire thing. I think that was 09.
I'm a fire walker too, baby.
Did you? Nice.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've done it twice actually.
The paradigm shift, right? I mean, and then I went to Fiji. I actually paid, you know, the money to go to Fiji. You know, it's
that's
like
his life mastery course,
$10,000 course. Yeah, business mastery. Yep, and he does the other stuff too. But so what I did is I went to Fiji. I went to the business mastery, and that was just an awesome course. And it, you know, taught a lot about business, but it was kind of an interesting play because I had challenges with my other business at the time, which, you know, was kicking off a lot of cash and afforded me the opportunity to do that. And I'm always investing in myself and improving personal development. And when I did that, you know, my main takeaway from going to Fiji and business mastery was USP. Unique selling proposition. How do you add more value to your clients? Right. And so that's where I had this model. And then I come home and then I got this kind of a veiled sales pitch from this company called the Real Estate Radio Network.
Okay.
So I'm kind of, and it's also, I believe, you know, this law of attraction thing and this, you know, putting the thoughts out there, and vision boards were big, you know, back then. So yeah, I got approached by this company out of San Diego called the Real Estate Radio Network, and it was a school. It was a school, and they taught us how to do the class. And I signed up immediately, and I was the first one in Tampa. There were a couple behind me that signed up and took it on, and you know, went through that group. But then, you know, Craig,
are they still around that group?
Yep, a couple of them still have. One of them has a show. The other one stopped doing his show.
But I mean, that group is still around too, training people.
They went out of business.
They did,
but they piggybacked into another thing called the American Dream television show.
Oh, I've heard of that.
So Craig Sewing, he's a friend of mine. He's an entrepreneur, man. He's a smart guy.
Yep.
You know, I've nothing but great things to say about Craig. But so I, you know, met him a few times in San Diego when I'd fly out, and he piggybacked into this other kind of a similar model to that, but it's more like on TV and creating content and putting it out. I've
seen them do episodes in Tampa Bay as well.
Yeah, exactly. So we did that for a while too. And then, you know, that kind of ran its course, but yeah, so the idea is, you know, for folks that are maybe getting into real estate or you know, looking for a new way to brand yourself or something along those lines, is, you know, always keep in mind as far as branding and your unique selling proposition. Like when you have your elevator pitch, right? If you get in the elevator with Donald Trump or whoever, right? What were you going to say to that person?
Right.
So my pitch is very unique from everybody else's, most real estate agents, in the fact that I do have this talk show. And one of the key elements is that I feature my real estate listings live on air on my show.
Yeah,
that's now syndicated in 80 outlets worldwide, because every year we've just added on. We've spent more money. I've invested over $1 million back into my radio show brand over the last 9.5 years.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense, and it's obviously worked for you, and it's really helped fed the beast, right?
Exactly.
That's been a lead generator for you, I'd have to imagine, and how that's worked. I've been on the show a couple times. I think I've been on 2 or 3 times, and just talking about real producers and our brand. So we always appreciate those invites, and you do a great job of bringing all kinds of small business owners on the show to let them kind of tell their story a little bit. And in fact, a couple times, I think even both times that I've been on your show, somebody else that was on the show at the same time as me as a guest was someone I ended up connecting with after, and ended up doing some stuff together. So you know, bringing people together is always a big, you know, a key part of it.
Yeah, that's a key element of the show too, because you have this kind of like built-in networking group.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, we try to keep it exclusivity. And yeah, there's a lot of connections made. It really works well for that. And then of course, you know, the syndication of the video content, the ability to call up your local mayor, sheriff, county commissioners. I've had several Buccaneer football players on the show over the years. So there was kind of a saying in the beginning, no one says no to radio.
Right.
Because it's kind of cool, and it's kind of true in a way where, if you give somebody an opportunity, a platform to appear and to speak their message to thousands of people.
Yep.
And luckily, thank God, now we've really invested back in it, Don, and we're at 4:00 drive time now on Salem Media's flagship station here in Tampa Bay, which is AM 860 The Answer. It's also 93.7 FM, so they got the FM translator. And then Sunday morning on 102.5 The Bone, which is a very popular station. A lot of people know The Bone, and they'll hear our spots throughout the week, kind of the teaser spots. But that's what I love about radio and the branding, and even our podcast and the YouTube channels now and Rumble channel, is that you have the ability to speak one to many. And then it's going to do several things. It's going to help solidify your position as an expert. You're going to be known as the authoritative expert in your space. Because to get behind a microphone and to be looking at a clock is, with radio, there's more of a clock than we're doing free flow podcast.
That's right. This is a little different.
But when you're looking at that, you have to have something that's intelligent to say, something that's interesting. Otherwise, people are going to turn you off.
For sure.
They're going to just go to the next channel. And that's where, we've really differentiated. And what you said before, I started off the show as the real estate quarterback. So back in the day, it was the first 3 years or so, it was the real estate quarterback show. And I just found that I got to a point where it was just similar content over and over, home inspections, et cetera, mortgage, title. So then I rebranded to the Consumer Quarterback Show. And just like yesterday, I had an interview with a great doctor that was talking about cleaning out your arteries and different, hormone replacement therapies, weight loss. So I'm going into self-defense now and concealed carry permits and all these different areas. So that's why I rebranded to the Consumer Quarterback Show, so I can be more broad-based.
That makes sense. I was going to ask you how that's evolved over the years, and that's one big way, way that it's evolved right there is, I think I even remember when it was the real estate show, and then it really focused in on this consumer niche, which, let's be real. I mean, real estate affects everybody, right?
Exactly.
Every small business owner out there owns a home probably, or wants to buy a home, or knows somebody who wants to buy a home, or wants to invest in a home, or something to that effect. So the idea that you can get them on the show, obviously put your brand in front of them, like I said earlier, generates that extra lead source as well. And then you start tapping into other networks and other communities, and it's genius. It makes a lot of sense.
Thank you. Yeah. And we do a lot of parties too. We'll do like business mixers. We used to do monthly gratitude parties and, things of that nature. We've kind of shifted a little bit. Of course, after the Chinese virus came over, we shifted a little bit. Yeah, I call it like it is.
I love Brandon, by the way. He
I call it like it is.
He tells it how it is on his show. He just calls everything out the way it is. If you're somebody who's going to get bothered by like what some people would view as politically incorrect, then I want you to check out Brandon's show one time and let me know what you think. All right?
There you go. Yeah, because it's like one of these. I heard it in a country song or something. I'm a man of my convictions. Call me wrong, call me right, but that's the way I'm going to be.
Amen.
And it's biblical, and everything I do in my life is because of Jesus, and I do it for the good.
Amen, brother.
But yeah, so I call it like it is. But anyway, so whenever we got shifted by this virus that came across, it changed the element for a lot of businesses. It changed the elements of meetings. So we got away from that, but we're getting back to it, now, and doing more business mixers, gratitude parties, luncheons, happy hour meetups, a lot like you do with real producers. Man.
Yeah, absolutely. And we were affected the same way. Obviously, when COVID got hit, we had to pivot to doing a lot of our events on Zoom, which, we made it work. And I think we still found a way to add value, but it wasn't nearly the same of what you can accomplish in person, and just the relationship development that comes naturally, when you can have events in person. So we did our banquet, obviously, finally back in person again this past year, and we did it a second year in a row, actually. So I'm glad it seems to be behind us now. And I think what's interesting too, and this is something we can probably talk in a lot of different tangents about our beliefs on certain things. But when the next pandemic comes, I feel like people are going to view it through a different lens. You know what I mean? Like, there's not going to be, hopefully, I hope there's not going to be as much just buy-in to, the government says this, so this is what we'll do. Like, I think people are a little bit more smart about, something wasn't right about some of the stuff that was being perpetrated out there, right? And that's becoming obvious now, like with the stuff that you see in the reporting. And we're not getting, and that's not really the focus of this podcast. Right. But the point is, I think in some ways, hopefully, it was good for society to be able to recognize that, maybe we shouldn't trust everything that the government says.
Right. Yeah, exactly. The number 5 trillion, does that ring a bell, or do you know what that is? $5 trillion was transferred, the upper elites and pharmaceutical companies.
I can imagine.
And big time.
Somebody made a boatload.
But your small business had to close. Yeah. Because you were deemed what was the term?
Not necessary.
Unnecessary, or whatever.
Right.
So your small business was shut down. So, and of course the upper elites and these guys, these globalists, they profited tremendously.
Yeah, they didn't close.
Exactly.
They made things. They actually took business to the next level. Yep. So MVP, right? That started as that's your team name,
Platinum
MVP within Keller Williams. Yep. And how long have you had that team now?
That one's been around for probably around since 2009. Since 2009, and then we have kind of a new announcement, somewhat new.
Yeah,
like 6 weeks. 6 weeks now.
Let's drop the news here.
We're rebranding, man. It's Livian Coastal Elite now.
Livian Coastal Elite, and that's official.
That's official,
right? It's come out just this year.
All the branding's rolling out. Yeah, literally the last 6 weeks, we joined Gary Keller's personal expansion model. If you don't know who Gary Keller, billionaire owner of Keller Williams Realty, started in the 80s, but he's an entrepreneurial mind. I mean, millionaire real estate agent. Yeah. One thing, he's written many books with Jay Papasan. But yeah, he launched this new company just months ago called Livian. Mm-hmm. And Livian is a very, I call it like the Rolex version of Keller Williams. Mm-hmm. We pay a little bit more to be a part of it, but what you get in return is just unbelievable. Mm-hmm. And it's limited to 2 per market center. So each market center, like we're out of the Clearwater Palm Harbor office there, you have 2 per market center. So, there's a couple agents that have jumped on board. But yeah, I mean, I can go into detail.
You're seeing the benefits from it already, huh?
We are. Yeah. It's
just different level of systems and support that they provide.
That's exactly right. Yeah, because you've got coaching and built in, and you've got artificial intelligence built in. You've got all of these different technologies that talk to each other.
Yeah.
So it's constantly updating your clients. It's great for your agents too. Like if you're growing a team like we are, we're always looking to add to our team and continue to grow. Yeah, I mean you've got like Follow Up Boss. Of course the different lead generation systems like Mojo. But you've got these different intelligent systems like Canary is like a lead warming system.
Yep.
Where you've got virtual assistants doing like literally 1,000 text messages a day, warming these leads. Yeah, I mean they're saying, hey, here's a hot lead, call them.
Yep.
They're ready to make a move. So yeah, the technology, the systems, the training, the coaching, and the ability to leverage. Because for my wife Lindsay and I, we were kind of
Lindsay, by the way, is the genius behind your business. Little shout out to Lindsay because she gets a lot done over there.
It's true what they say. Have complementary, like opposites attract, right? Like I'm completely that driven, that high D, that and unfortunately to a fault of the assertive type personalities, it's kind of like time is money. When you're talking to people sometimes, and we got to try to slow that down as much as we can. Yeah. I teach negotiation classes also, so that's kind of at least I'm aware of it.
Yeah.
But and she's somewhat the opposite of that. She's definitely more organized, more.
She handles a lot of the operations over there, huh?
Exactly. Yeah. Coach. She's a great coach too. Like she had a business prior to getting into real estate where I think her last year in that business was close to 50 million in sales, handling like road shows, things of that nature. But yeah, it really is a great combination because I'll see things through a certain lens. She'll have a different perspective, and by doing that, you really, and you're able to add value to your agents in a different way.
Yep.
Like they'll have a conversation with me and it'll be one thing, and then they'll have a conversation with Lindsay and they'll say, "Oh, wow, that was an interesting take on that."
Yeah, you guys are a great dynamic.
Right. Something that I may not have seen.
I mean, if you're out there and you're not necessarily looking to get married to somebody to be your partnership, I mean, just finding a business partner though, that can provide what Lindsay really does provide for you as well. I think, having that awareness of knowing what your strengths are, and what your weaknesses are, so that you can find that person that can help supplement them and really complement the business. I think that's a big, principle that someone has to look for if they really want to scale.
Yeah.
And grow ultimately. You mentioned earlier too, Brandon, when you first got licensed, you mentioned that you made a mistake about looking for 100% of the commission, not really
Yep.
looking for something that was providing the support and the training. And I think that's really an important thing that you brought up.
Yeah.
Because like if you were trying to, coach, and now you do coach and you go around and you're teaching constantly and you have a lot of value to offer,
Right.
what's something that you feel like would be for some of the newer people possibly who are trying to get to the top 500 level? They want to be in the audience that you're in. They want to break through. There's over 15,000 agents that did one transaction last year in Tampa Bay. There's over 25,000 agents that are technically licensed in Tampa Bay. That tells you right there was literally 10,000 people who were licensed who didn't even do a deal last year. So if somebody who's motivated though and who wants to get into that 500 audience, what would be a tip that you would share to maybe get there on a faster track than it took you to figure it out?
Yeah, I mean, there's I wrote an article too that I hopefully will get published.
It's going to be coming out.
Yeah, so thank you for the opportunity to do that, because I basically answered that question in that article. So this would be a good kind of a precursor to that. But yeah, I went through like five rules of real estate success, and when I was doing that and writing that column, it's number one is USP to me. It's unique selling proposition. What is that for you? And it it could be, that could go in a lot of different ways, right? How do you, in other words, what Tony Robbins taught me was, how do you add more value? Why would the customer want you over the other agent?
Yep.
Right.
How are you going to differentiate?
Differentiation, innovation, it's branding. It goes, that could go into, different areas. So I think
that's where your radio show came in for you.
Yeah. The real estate quarterback.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm branding. I'm actually trademarking that. I'm, working with different attorneys on those, but yeah, so that's the idea. And it's leverage. You'll hear Gary Keller in the classes I teach too. He'll have, it seems like everybody's teaching something, they have a triangle, right? It's like this triangle, so where our minds
something
work.
Magical about that triangle.
And it's three, right? Like human beings, it's 1, 2, 3, too many,
right?
It's like 1, 2, 3, wait, no, not 4, 5, and 6. No, 1, 2, 3, too many. So leads, listings, and leverage, right? So if you really break it down, you got to have leads.
Yep.
Now, some people don't want to be phone people. I'm a phone guy. I don't mind it.
Yeah.
I'll invest my time. I'll eat my nose. We all heard that, the nose, getting you closer to the next yes, or every nose worth $50 or whatever, right? And it really is a math equation.
Yeah.
If you boil down real estate, if you boil down, hey, I want to make 100,000 a year. Okay, well, what do you have to do in the moment to generate that, right?
What are your ratios? How many no's? How it all boils down to activity, knowing your numbers.
Yep. Calls to appointments to listings taken to contracts taken. So leads are key, and some people might want to be more of an influencer. People can do it on Instagram, Facebook these days. Some people are okay with going to networking events, 3 nights a week or whatever it might be, right? Or some people are really good at working their sphere. And that's another mistake I made. I did not work my sphere at all. The first, 8 to 10 years of my business, 12 years really, along those lines.
And that should be the lowest hanging fruit.
It's the lowest hanging fruit for most people. Right. I talked to some agents. They're like, I was talking to one of my buddies. I've got a $9 million co-listing in North Carolina. And I was talking to Bill, and I said, he's a co-listing agent with KW up there. And I said, tell me, what's your breakdown? He's like 65 or something percent sphere. And then the other is like referrals.
Yeah.
So he'll literally get on a plane, go to Keller Williams sports and entertainment events. I'm part of the sports and entertainment, but I haven't gone to the events.
Yeah.
We got a 15-month-old baby boy at home.
Yep.
So, it's like, got to help out with that and kind of weigh all this
hands
out.
Full, just like we do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. And so when you look at that, so there's lots of ways to get leads. So leads is number one, right? And then you go listings. Of course, we want listings because listings will give us buyer leads. They will give us seller leads, investor leads. They will give a lot of different leads, right? Yeah. It gets us exposure. That's our signage that's out there on all those different websites. And it's also a known fact, and I teach the class called Win with Sellers throughout Keller Williams. This is part of my teaching. It's 38 hours that go into working with a buyer. Okay. The numbers show, the studies show, right? Statistics show 38 hours to work with a buyer to get from start to close. 19 hours to work with a listing client.
Interesting. Okay. I haven't heard that before.
Yeah. So it's a lot less. So anyways, leads, listings. And the other question is, do you want to be the employer or do you want to be the employee?
Yep.
Right. You want that lifestyle balance. So if I'm listing agent, which I'm working hard throughout the week, I'm going hard 9 to 5, or not 9 to 5. I'm going, 5 days a week. And I'm running listing appointments. I'll go to Lakeland for a high-end listing appointment or whatnot. I'll go wherever it takes to get the deal done. But when you work 9 to 5 as an employer, or on the weekends, you got the employees out there showing your listings.
Yep.
Right, because that's when the weekends are off, the buyers are off, and of course nights and weekends. So that's one of the things I really like about being a listing agent.
Yep.
Is I'm the employer. So then you got leverage, right? So then leverage gets into what I was mentioning earlier with Livian is the ability to leverage the technology, the education, the training, the support, the coaching, the systems, the tools, all of those. When they work together, that's how you get to those big numbers like some of the folks in Tampa are doing. 100 million plus, 200 million plus.
Yeah.
And that's what our goal is. Our goal is $100 million in 18 months.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
I thought that was some gold right there that you just threw out there for people. I hope that was something that people can resonate with and apply to their business right away. Leads, listings, and leverage. All three is really the core of what it looks like to be successful in real estate, right?
That's right.
You need all three to be able to get somewhere. And you've obviously done a great job in building that out and continue to do so. And, so if you're out there, and it's funny because you say that's how any wannabe agent should be thinking, right?
Yep.
Is I need to figure out how I'm going to master those three things.
Yep.
Rather than thinking I just need 100% of my commission, right?
Oh yeah.
Like, because that's a first thought that a lot of people have is, well, who's going to pay me? Who's going to allow me to keep most of my money?
Yep.
And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. There is a right and a wrong time, maybe for some people to go to a different brokerage, and
yep.
If they're not feeling like they're getting the support, right, that they have. But especially if you're new.
Yeah.
And you're trying to scale and you're trying to kind of just learn this business and you're trying to like make a name for yourself. That wouldn't be the first thing in my mind, right? It would be, how can I make sure that I can put myself in a position that those three legs are going to be supported?
Yeah.
They can help me with leads. They can help me with, on the listing side, give me the teachings and things that I need to build a listing business.
Yep.
And then at the same time, leverage their systems, their VA programs, their, software and their tech stack and all of that stuff. I mean, that to me is gold. It's really what you should be thinking about. For a few minutes we have left. Sorry, go ahead.
You hear the 100% commissions is, it's 100% of nothing is nothing, right? And if you're working it that way, you really got to look at that. And there's so much more to go into as far as leverage, but
I know it. We can talk for a long time, man. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
It is nice that we don't have to have a lot of radio interruptions there, though, isn't it?
Like the freeform podcast is pretty cool. I do some of these too with my overtime show.
Okay, there you go.
Quarterback show overtime. I need to do more of them. I've gotten away from it, but yeah, I'll set up mics at my house, cameras, and we'll just free flow, and we'll have whatever.
Yeah, man. Plus, I enjoy them. I'm having a blast just doing these podcasts because, again, as you know, like with the magazines, you can only get so much content out with the actual magazine article itself.
Yeah.
This just allows us to kind of dive into some more and get more of the backstory behind it. So
absolutely.
I want to give some of the audience a little bit more about you personally, and just as people might know more about what makes Brandon tick.
Yep.
So obviously you have a wonderful marriage with your wife, Lindsay.
Yep.
You have how many kids now? Two kids, newborn, 15 months old, you said.
That's
so
right.
Congratulations there.
Thank you.
And not that long ago, you had some pretty serious health scare for your family.
Yeah, that's right, man. Double bypass.
I was shocked when I heard the news and saw that. And so did that just come out of the blue, or were you feeling like out of whack, or how did that all shake out?
I mean, yeah, kind of out of the blue, and kind of going back to what we're talking about. We used to have a lot of networking parties. My wife and I built our dream home also on Lake Tarpon, just a beautiful, nice home.
I've been to your house. It's gorgeous.
Thank you.
Yes.
And it's perfect for
I got to come to a party though one of these days.
I know we're going to have the 10-year party. So that's coming up too.
Yeah, dude.
I got doing that.
You invited me one year, and unfortunately I was away with the family the same week it was like 4th of July, I think, or sometime like that.
Well, that's the next one. So
okay.
So put that on the books.
That's always a tough week for us because we tend to travel a lot that week.
Yeah.
But yes, I get it.
It is. But yeah, so the I forgot my
We're having parties.
There.
You were having parties.
Oh yeah, so we had the parties, and then we got you got to get tested for this COVID thing, right?
Yeah.
So I went to one place, and I walked into this place, and there were people all around me hacking and coughing. I'm like, man, I don't even feel bad.
Right.
I'm not going to stand in this place. I mean, literally, I'm standing in the middle of the waiting room, Don, like looking around. I'm like, 45 minutes. No, I'm not doing that. I went out in my car for a little while. I just left. I went home. Lindsay's like, no, you got to get tested. What are you doing? Why didn't you? I said, okay, I'll go to the emergency clinic across the street. So I embellished. I went over there and embellished a little bit because back then you couldn't even get a test. Remember in the beginning? Mm-hmm. It was hard to get a test. And
they didn't have the supplies out yet.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I just feel like this and that. So they come back and did an EKG. They said, when did you have your heart attack? And I said, what heart attack? And they said, yeah, your EKG. I didn't realize the EKG is like a credit report. It shows your history.
Sure.
So anyhow, that's what they said. And, one thing led to another, get the next test done, get the next test. Yep. You got 100% blockage in one artery. You got 80 something percent in the other.
Wow.
And I just
said, a young guy.
Yeah. 42 years old. My dad died really young of a heart attack though. And he was active. He was a military veteran. He was an Army, MP.
Wow.
And my biological dad, my other dad is, I kind of refer to dad too, because he raised me up since I was a young kid. He was our sports coach, my stepdad, Bruce. But so I had, anyway, so that happened. And I found
thank
out.
God Lindsay talked you into getting tested, huh?
Exactly. Yeah. And so I went in and I said, well, let's do it Monday, and I always heard, from mom and everybody's like, if you're going to have a surgery, do it first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
You don't want to get in there and sit in the waiting room till 3 o'clock and then it get pushed to 5 and then now you're midnight. So I got it done. And luckily,
you recovered well.
I had a lot of support. Good. My wife was there. And that was one of the worst parts. They wouldn't even let people come in and visit you back then.
Yeah.
My heart goes out to seniors that were dying at that time.
I
mean, our government robbed people of their ability to see their families.
One of the things that really, like a better word, pisses me off more than anything is how that was treated.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
can you imagine being on your deathbed?
You can't fix that. The families is why I feel horrible for. They couldn't visit the people that were their moms and dads are dying in nursing homes and you weren't able to see them. I mean, that's just
totalitarian, man.
It's messed up.
Be careful the way you support who you support and vote for. But
I'm glad you're recovered well. You're feeling good now. You look great.
Feeling great, buddy. Yeah. Working out, trying to stay active.
Must have been all those biscuits and gravy when you were a kid, huh? When you was
that's the thing. I was always an egg white, veggie omelet guy. Like I would eat pretty well. I did like my steaks. I got to say I do like steaks, but I try to eat fillets.
Who doesn't?
Things like that, and keep it clean. But luckily,
I guess it's a good warning for everybody to go get a checkup, right? You just never know.
Matter of fact, I got a free opportunity for you. My friend Martin Gramatica, he owns a company called Lifeguard Imaging right here on Rocky Point. Lifeguard Imaging, get a free check. It's a $100 or no, I forgot what the value is, but it's a heart scan. They offer it. It's called lifeguardimaging.com. Just tell them Real Estate Quarterback sent you. And they'll know the code to use. Yeah. And and it's it'll save people. They have stories of where they save people's lives too.
I'm sure there is. There's another company where I'm from up in Connecticut that does similar things. It's called the Princeton Longevity Center.
Yep.
And they basically do free, not free. There's nothing they do is free actually. But they have a lot of the imaging things, and it's kind of that advanced level of medicine to really try to find out beforehand what the issue might be, not just from the heart, but they do everything from full body scans, cancer, any sort of growth that might lead to something bad. They want to try to catch it obviously really early.
That's right.
And so I know some people that have gone through that and swear by it. And I think, if you can find a way to be able to catch that stuff early, I mean, we got to stick around here for a while. I mean, you got young kids, you got to be around for years to come, Brandon.
Hey, we got ball games to go to and stuff.
Man. No doubt. I feel the same way with I'm going to have to check this one out and get myself tested probably here soon. Yeah. I'm 42 myself now.
Yep.
So, what do you guys love to do for fun, bro? What gets you guys? What do you pat other than the parties at your house?
Yeah, I've always been an outdoors type guy, and I went to my first golfing deal the other day. It was Keller Williams. I said, I haven't golfed in over a decade, but I'll go. It was like, Keller Williams, Baldini. This almost every time.
Well, it's tough. It's different than throwing a football.
Yeah. But I don't like golf per se as much. I'll do it for business stuff, and I'd rather be there to talk. I'm a social type of guy, but I love getting out on the boat, man. I'm a Freedom Boat Club member. Nice. I like going fishing. I like going, hunting. Occasionally, I'll go meet up with some of my buddies, and we'll go in the woods and pull out
kill some
ARs and stuff. Yeah,
there you go.
Have some fun with that, but. So I enjoy those types of things. We started a church group at our home, a Bible study on Wednesday nights. I'm getting more into, especially with my scare, I'm getting more into the Bible and, and kind of looking at faith from a different lens now.
Absolutely.
And I really think that these are the end
perspective,
times.
Doesn't it?
I think it's the end times. When you got men competing in women's sports and all these different things going on. If you're not, in a good relationship with Jesus, man, I want to give that shout out there too. That's the most important thing,
Amen, brother.
This timeline that we're on right now is like this part of it.
Yeah.
We've got this whole thing to look at.
Bible says our life is but a vapor.
That's right, man.
And it really is. Right?
It is.
In the spectrum of things in eternity.
Yeah.
The 70s, 80 years or so. Hopefully we even get 80 years that we have here. It really is but a vapor. So what's that? And that can lead to probably our last question, which we'll get to in a second. But I actually, as you probably know, I think have a community called Lives for Christ that I started years ago. And it's been a real blessing too, to be able to just share biblical scriptures, share some devotional type material.
I love it.
We're actually launching a website this year that I've been working with somebody on. And our intent with that is to build a whole other community which will also include a podcast and other things, but to focus it on our Christian testimonies.
Yeah.
So we're pretty excited about what that's going to look like moving forward. We'll have to have you on that too one day.
Yeah, and we'll have you on the show to talk about that.
Yeah, man, that would be a blessing for sure. A couple rapid fire things. I do this on a lot of our podcasts just to let the audience know more about you. So, favorite movie? You have one?
Movie. I got to go back to Rocky IV, man.
Oh, classic.
That was when I was a
kid. 4's your favorite, huh?
I like 4, man. It's just, you got the Russia thing. You got the whole, I mean, it's just, don't I have a tiger? Like I watched that video probably 30 times when I was a kid, man. And I would go out and.
You can't watch that and not get inspired.
No, we'd go out and, by the way, my dad had an old charcoal Dodge. I never forget. And we'd pop that soundtrack on the way to the football games.
Yeah.
Man, of course. That soundtrack.
Every good coach has to play a portion of that, pregame powwow somehow, right?
Oh, man.
Get everybody fired up.
It was great. He was such a good coach too, man. Just, he would come out and we were playing teams like Naples Gators, Clewiston, like all these teams that would beat us traditionally. And it was all motivation, brother. Like his motivation and skill, but he would come out with a dozen roses behind his back, like dead roses. And he'd get us all pumped up. He'd say, well, I just talked to that other coach and you're not going to like what they said to me. He said, but he pulled out this card and he'd say, yeah, you big bunch of babies are going to need this pacifier when we get done kicking your butts. And he'd throw the pacifier on the ground and he'd have these flowers or the roses. Whoa, they sent this to you. And right before we go on the field.
Dude, that's great.
So that's a motivation.
Is this your USF coach?
That's my dad and Pop Warner, bro.
Oh, Pop Warner coach.
Think about 10-year, 11-year-old kids.
Oh, that's awesome, dude. That is awesome.
Yeah, so
your dad was a genius.
So that's Rocky IV.
It takes an art to be able to really, tap in and get you to that next level.
Yeah.
So it sounds like your dad had that skill.
We'd beat these teams that nobody would think we'd beat.
Yeah, man. Because really, like, especially at that level, it's not like one team has a crazy amount more talent than someone else. It's fairly equalized in terms of talent structure. So it's like, who wants it more that day, right?
Yeah.
Who's going to go get it? It makes a lot of sense. Favorite food?
I like crab legs a lot.
Okay.
I got to say crab legs.
That's the Southern in you, huh?
Steaks.
Southern boy in you right there.
Yeah. I love crab legs.
You mentioned Tony Robbins earlier, so he might be the answer to this, but I always ask, do you have a favorite, book or author or even a seminar that you've attended that really has made the biggest impact on you?
One that I've really listened to a lot now is Dennis Prager, man.
Oh yeah,
he's founder of Prager University.
Yeah, it's great stuff.
And because a lot of this intellectual stuff, again, it's kind of like it doesn't matter as much. Dennis has wisdom, and he's teaching wisdom. So he's got a rational Bible series called The Rational Bible with Dennis Prager, and he goes through the Torah, the first 5 Bible books of the Bible. Genesis, Exodus,
Leviticus, Numbers.
Yep.
Deuteronomy.
I haven't got to all those. Deuteronomy I've read. So I think I've gotten through 3 so far.
Yeah.
But it really, because it walks you through all these different areas of, like, the big thing in Florida was this Parkland shooting in Fort Lauderdale, right?
Yep.
The guy killed 17 people, but the jury let him off. He didn't get the death penalty.
Yeah.
But luckily, a friend of mine that's a state rep, he changed the law. They just signed it into law. It's like an eye for an eye. Like, if you take a human life, you deserve death.
That's scripture.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's scripture.
Yeah.
Right. So that, to me, there's a lot of great sales books, Never Split the Difference, all these Tony Robbins books. But to me, it's like, at this point in my life, I'm listening to that kind of stuff.
That's awesome, man. As a side note, the pastor of our church does a daily devotional that he puts out. His blog is called heartofashepherd.com. And he's goes through every book of the Bible every day.
That's awesome.
Now, obviously, he goes through like a specific chapter each day. And every day, though, every morning, it's in my inbox and it's part of my daily devotional routine.
Yeah.
And it's been an amazing blessing for me because it allows me to complement what I'm trying to do with reading through the Bible, which I've done for about a decade myself.
Nice.
And if you ever want to follow that, it's something that we're actually going to piggyback with our Lives for Christ community and have some of that on there as well as far as his content. I've gotten his blessing to do that. But he does a really great job of even studying some of the hard books like Leviticus. Yeah. That's what made me think of it.
Right.
When you mentioned that. And he'll really break down the context behind what this particular chapter, who wrote it, why they wrote it, what was the time like, what was the history like, all that is broken down.
That's important.
That's really important.
Because if you don't have the context, and that's where you have, these like Bill Maher and these guys that don't believe, oh, well, these guys believe in magic and no. Look, this was centuries ago, guys.
Absolutely. Yeah.
These are things that happened, and
there's certain rules that were just for the Israelites, just for the, just Levitical laws that were not designed for all Christians, right?
Right.
but having that distinction and knowing what these are, those are different than the 10 Commandments, as an example.
That's true,
right?
man.
And knowing that is important if you're gonna if faith is important to you.
I'd be remiss if I didn't mention though, Coach Tony Dungy's a big time. I love Dungy too. I've been trying to get him on my show for years, but he's got some great books too, Quiet Strength and other ones.
Yeah.
But
I've read 2 of them.
Yep.
And we actually featured his son as well, Eric, and
Yeah.
one of our he's
like
been on
Eric
our
too.
panel. He's a good dude.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to wrap up, I guess, Sarah.
Cool.
I could talk to you all day long, man. It's a fun conversation, but I always like to ask this question, and this kind of goes hand in hand with what we just started talking about with legacy.
Yeah.
And, knowing that, all of our days come to an end at some point, right? Hopefully we have nice long lives. We get to see our kids grow up and get married and all that stuff. But when you think about what's most important to you and what you want to be known for when that day comes, right? And your kids are older, hopefully, one day, and thinking about dad and your business and the legacy you leave in the business world, the legacy you leave personally. What do you think is most important to you, Brandon, in terms of what you'd want your legacy to be?
Yeah, thank you. I think it's, faith, family, friends. I think it's along those lines. I think it's also for business. If there's a younger agent out there and they call me and they're, you can tell you got to help them through the finish line. I was that guy that helped people. I want to be that guy that was coached people. I'd like to think I'm changing lives through my radio talk show, through the outreach we have, through some of the offers we give, the enrichment we give for a nonprofit. I don't charge nonprofit organizations to come on my show. So there's things that we do that, that I was a righteous man. I was charitable. We're looking into fostering still, of course, with an infant, it's hard right now. But yeah, I just, that's what I want to be known as, man. Just somebody that gave back, somebody that cared. And life's short, man.
It is
life's short, brother.
Too short. Too short. So you got to make the most of it. I was just doing my Bible devotions this morning, and it was Moses talking about when to the Israelites, talking about numbering your days.
Yeah.
Right? The importance of numbering your days, because this was when I was reading it this morning, he was over 80 years old. He was about to know that he wasn't going to be the one leading them into the promised land. Right. But he was talking to it was like his last message to his family, to his Israelites, before he knew he was going to go to the top of the mountain and die.
Yeah.
And his message to them was, he just saw an entire generation of Israelites die in the wilderness for 40 years because of disobedience to God and not following, the way that they were supposed to. And so he was trying to communicate to this new group to, life is precious, and number your days, and each day really matters because it's gone like that. Right.
Yeah.
So it's a powerful lesson from thousands of years ago that we still can take into our life today. And so loved having you on the show today, man. If there's people who want to follow up with you and ask some questions about your radio show, about your brand, about how you built some things, what's the best way to connect with you?
Yeah. brimes@kw.com. My email, brimes@kw.com, is a direct link to me. consumerqb.com for the radio talk show. And consumerqb.com is, short for consumer quarterback. I'd love to help. Anything I can do. Anybody, wants mentorship, we're doing that. We're doing classes pretty often. And, if anybody has an idea for a radio show and has, a topic or somebody that may be of interest, Coach Dungy or some of these guys, I'd love to get some of those guys on.
You'll get them on one of these days.
Yeah. And I've had Warwick Dunn over the years, and Grant Cardone, and some really good guests, Jarek Robbins, Tony's son. And
no doubt.
Of course, it's great to have business guys like you on there, Don, and, some of these other folks. And I just want to commend you as well for, everything you're doing, man, and bringing people together and being a leader in the community and a leader for Christ too, man.
Yeah, it's been a blessing. I've been enjoying it, and it is a blessing to even have the opportunity. So and getting to meet people like you, bro. So I consider you a good friend, and looking forward to one of these days hanging out at your house. That would be a lot more fun too.
Let's do it.
One of these parties, right?
That's
so
right. Yeah,
guys, if you don't know the routine by now, you can follow us on YouTube, of course. Subscribe to our channel, Tampa Bay Real Producers. We're on every single podcast platform out there, wherever you might listen to your podcast, Apple, Spotify, you name it, you'll find us. And another one of our great episodes here with Brandon Rhymes today. So check this one out. You'll see these dropping every single Friday. And the last thing I always leave the episode with is, what is one specific tip that you can do, one action step that you can grab from this conversation today with Brandon? Because we talked about a lot, whether that's the triangle, whether that's, listings, leverage, and what was the other one? Leads, right? Leads, listings, and leverage. So being able to just, what's one thing that you can apply today and not wait on it? That's really the key, is to be able to do something to take action. That's what Tony Robbins also preaches all the time. to be able to move your business forward. If you're not yet a top producer, if you're not yet in the top 500, if you're not quote unquote a real producer yet, that's the one step that can get you in that direction. And if you already are, maybe you're wanting to create a better lifestyle, a more fulfilling lifestyle for you. You've already been successful in the business sense, but maybe there's something missing from a fulfillment standpoint. What's one action step that you can take to be able to do that, in your life as well? Stay classy, everybody. We'll catch you on the next episode. Later.